Good morning, students. Today we should start with a new chapter, that is your chapter number 2, called Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plants, and the weightage of this particular chapter is about 8 marks. We know that the plants will reproduce both by sexually as well as asexual method, but in this topic we are specifically studying only the sexual reproduction seen in case of flowering plants. Flowering plants meaning the angiospermic plants. So we'll begin with the flower, because flower is one of the important organ of the plant, and also it is the reproductive organ in case of flowering plants. Let us see what are the different flower. Let us see what are the different parts of the flower. So the flower consists of a basal bulged portion on which all the orals are arranged, and this basal bulged portion we call it as thalamus, and the flower has 4 important orals arranged on this thalamus. Will begin from the innermost oral, that is called pistil. So the pistil consists of stigma, the style, and the basal portion called ovary. So now here the stigma, style, and the ovary together constitute the pistil, which is the female reproductive part of the flower. And the next oral is called as the stamen. These are the stamens. So the stamen consists of the lobed structure called anther and this slender thread-like structure called filament. Here anther and filament together constitute the stamen, and this is our male reproductive part. And the third oral being the petals. So third oral being the petals. So this is the petals, and the fourth oral is nothing but the calyx. So this is the fourth oral called calyx or sepals, and the stalk of the flower is called as pedicel. Yes, we'll repeat. Flower basically has 4 orals. The outermost oral. Now we are beginning from the outermost oral. The outermost oral of the flower is called as the calyx. It is also represented by the letter K. Commonly you can call it as a sepals. So this forms the outermost oral, and the main function of this is to protect the flower during bud condition. Flower during bud condition. The next oral is called as the corolla, represented by the letter C, or it is called as petals. So these are usually bright in color, and this brightness is to attract the insects or animals towards the flower. Clear? And the third oral is called as androecium, represented by A. It consists number of stamen. Now we have already discussed each stamen consists of the anther and the filament. Each stamen, if I write, if this is a stamen, it consists of the anther and it is having the filament. And this portion of the filament which is attached to the anther is referred to as a distal end, and the other side which is attached to the flower, here this side you call it as the proximal end of the filament. This is a distal end of the filament and other side you call it as the proximal end of the filament. And here you can see a bilobed structure of the anther. Anther here in this case, it's a bilobed, meaning it is having two lobes. You can see one lobe here and second lobe here. And there are some flowers where anthers are single lobe. It shows only one lobe. You call that as monothecous, and that is seen in case of Malvaceae family. Clear? Anthers can be two lobes, or you call it as dithecous, or it can be monothecous. In this case I have written as dithecous. In case of Malvaceae family, you can see such monothecous anther. Right now, and also the number of stamen can be vary, that it can have few flowers might show 4, 10 or it is in a bundles. And also the length of, here second one, the length of stamen can vary. The length of stamen can vary. In a same flower only, the length of the stamen can vary. Here the first one you call it as the didynamous, meaning in this case it will show two long stamen and two short stamen. Two long and two short stamen. In the second case you call it as tetradynamous. Tetradynamous shows 4 short stamen and 2 long stamen. Understood? The length of the stamen can vary. Some of them shows didynamous condition, meaning it is having 2 long and 2 short stamen, or it can be tetradynamous showing 4 short stamen and 2 long stamens. Moving on to the attachment of the anthers to the filament. See, based on the attachment pattern, again you can see different types. So one, it is called basifixed. See, this is the anther here. This is a bilobed anther. The filament here, you can see the filament are attached from the base of the anther, from the base. This condition is called basifixed. First type is called the basifixed. If the anthers are attached from the dorsal side, if the filament are attached from the anther side of the stamen, you call this as dorsifixed. This is our second type called dorsifixed. Third type, this is an anther. If the filament is attached all along this anther like this, if it is this way, you call it as the adennate type of fixation. And there is one more type called fourth versatile, where anthers are long this way and you can see here the filaments are attached at the center like this. You call it as versatile type of attachment. Yes, based on the attachment. How are the filament attached to the anther? This is our filament and this is the anther. How is this filament attached to the anther? You have 4 different types. If filament is coming from the base of the anther, you call it as basifixed. If it is coming from the dorsal side, you call it as dorsifixed. If it is coming all through the anther, you call it as adinolate. And if it is elongated and if it is from the center, you call it as the versatile type of attachment. And moving to the 4th point in the stamen, the stamens can be present on the flower on different parts. If the stamen is present, the stamen can be on one. The stamen can be present on the petals. If stamen is coming from the petals, you call such condition as epipetalous. We call it as epipetalous. If the stamen is coming from the sepals, you call it as epicephalous. If stamen is coming from the tepals, you call it as epiphyllous. Now you know what is petal, sepals. What is sepal? If you are unable to differentiate the petal and sepals, we call such condition as the tepals. If stamen is coming from the petal, you call it as epipetalous. If stamens are on the sepals, you call it as epicephalous. If it is on the tepals, you call it as epiphyllous. Clear? So this is all about the stamen. So you can look back once here. This androecium consists number of stamen. Each stamen consists of the filament and the anther. The anther can be dithecous or it can be monothecous. And the filament consists of 2 ends. The end to which anther is attached, you call it as distal end, and the other end you call it as the proximal end of the filament. The length of the stamen can vary. It can be of didynamus condition or it is tetradynamus condition. And based on the attachment of the filament to the anther, there are 4 types of attachment: basifixed, dorsifixed, adinolate and versatile. And where is the stamen present? If it is present on the petal, epipetalous. On the sepals, epicephalous. On the tepals, it is called epiphyllous. Yes. Now, the 4th oral, you call it as the gynoecium, represented by the letter G, and this is our female reproductive part of the flower. Now, the gynoecium consists of pistils. It consists of pistil. Each pistil consists of stigma, style and the ovary. Previously we have seen each pistil here, it consists of this portion, you call it as stigma. The function of stigma is a broader portion present on the pistil which will provide the platform for pollen grains to come and sit. And this is the style, and again pistil can be of different shape. Stigma can be of bifid shape, the shape of this one, or it can be dome shape, or it can be also the palmosa shape. So they can show different shape, but the purpose of all stigma is they will provide the platform so that the pollen grains can come and sit on the stigma. And the next is called style. This is a connectivity between the stigma and the ovary. And here the attachment of this style to the ovary can be again of different types. So let us see here. Style can be attached style can be attached to the terminal of ovary. Getting? See here, if this is the ovary, the style can be attached to the terminal, the tip here, it can be arranged like this, or it can be arranged on the lateral side of ovary. Lateral side of ovary. If this is a ovary, the style can be from the lateral side like this. In such cases, usually this will be in case of a sterile flower, or it can be from the base of the ovary. Base of ovary. This is a ovary. It can be from the base like this. It can be from the base. The style can be attached to the ovary in different position. Either it can attach from the terminal of the ovary, or lateral side of the ovary, or from the base of the ovary. Again, the style here, it can be two types. Style can be hollow, or it can be solid. Now, what do you mean by hollow? See, if this is a stigma portion and this is a style, here this might show a hollow space inside. You call it as a hollow. If this is a stigma and this is our style, here it is filled with the cells like this. Here it is filled with the cell. This you call it as solid. If it is hollow, if you can see a cavity inside like pipe, you call it as a hollow style. If it is filled with the cell, you call it as a solid style. Clear? So this is all about the style. And now it is the ovary. The basal bulged portion, what you see here, is called as the ovary, and within the ovary you can see the ovule present. Within the ovary you can see the ovule. Inside the ovule you can see the embryo sac. You can see the embryo sac, and this is where you can find our female gamete, that is nothing but the egg is present in the embryo sac. Clear? And previously in your class 11 you have also studied that the position of the ovary can be superior, it can be superior, or it can be inferior, or it can be half inferior. Clear? So we'll see here again 4 different orals of the flower are calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. This calyx and corolla, you call it as the accessory oral. We call it as accessory oral. Why? Because this is not directly involved in the reproduction, but it is helping in the reproduction process. Actual reproduction is done by the androecium and the gynoecium here. So both these two are called as essential oral. You call it as essential oral. And those flower which is having all the 4 orals are called as complete flower. Flower having all 4 orals are called complete flower. If flower doesn't have any one of these oral, you call it as incomplete flower. And also flower which exhibit both the gynoecium and androecium, what do you call such flower as? You call it as bisexual flowers. Bisexual flower meaning it will have both the sex, 2 sex, which is that androecium, gynoecium, both the sex. If it is present in single flower, you call it as bisexual flower. If the flower is having only androecium or only gynoecium, you call it as unisexual flowers. Unisexual flowers. If it is having only androecium, you call it as the male flower, because androecium is the male reproductive part. If the flower is having only the gynoecium, you call it as the female flower because this is the female reproductive organ. Clear with this? Please go through this once again. Yes, just revise once. Flower, different parts of the flower, function of calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Clear? In the next class, we'll study some more detail of the androecium. That's nothing but the stamen. Yes, any doubts? Please ask me in the group. Go through this and we'll continue in the next video. Thank you.